All right, awesome. Guys, we're ready to go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Real Estate Social Rockstar Show. This is going to be a banging show where we're going to be talking about how to master your personal brand. And the reason that this is such a ridiculously awesome show today is because we have the amazing Seth Price. What's up, Seth?
How are you, sir? Super excited to be on the show, man. This is great.
I am super excited that you agreed to be on this show and that you are going to be here to share some valuable insights. Seth, I could tell people about how awesome you are and how you are a brand wizard and how you have a phenomenal book that I know is coming out and all that kind of stuff. But would you mind just taking a minute and introducing yourself, because I won't do as good as a job as you will.
My pleasure. So I focus on helping individuals and companies build their brand and grow their customer base. So it's, whether that's from 0 customers to 500,000 customers. And the idea is that every individual is a brand. And so sort of everything that I do is about nurturing that, figuring out how to leverage it and how to amplify that, not only for the companies that I work for, but for the customers of those companies and the people that I speak to.
Fantastic. So this brings up just right off the bat a big question. I didn't actually plan on asking you this, but that's what's great about this. It just came up. I run a brokerage, Meier Real Estate. We're a New York City-based luxury brokerage, and so my question to you is, I know that you speak probably both to brokerages and both to agents as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
So can you explain to me, how can an agent be a brand if there is already a company brand? Like, what does that mean?
Well, in that case, I think about them differently. I think about an agent as an ambassador of that brand, or an individual as an ambassador of the brand. So think about me and Playster. So I am not Playster, but I am an evangelist, and I speak on and I wear the personification of the reputation of this brand. So if I all of a sudden go out and do something really shameful, that is a negative representation of the brand. But if I do great things in the world and I interact with folks and I leverage whatever relationships and content that I create to add value, that sheds a good light on the company, and it allows us to connect, the technology that we create here with new folks. So that's sort of how you think about the two things. We are all brands. There's no getting away from that, because we still buy from people. That's not going to change.
So we are all brands, but when you're within a larger brand, you're an ambassador for that brand. So if there are, let's make up, a company, whether you have 20 agents in a brokerage or whether you have 500 in a brokerage, when every agent is looking at themselves, are they, what are some questions that maybe they should be asking themselves to figure out whether they actually have a brand, or whether that brand is aligned with their company, and whether they're in the right company? Talk to us a little bit about that. Yeah,
I mean, brand building is very much the same for an individual as it is for a company. First, it's figuring out, what are you good at? Like, are you good at something? What's your expertise, your subject matter expertise, your craft, the thing that you do that adds value to your customers? Because if you're just selling hot air or selling knockoff sneakers, well, they better be damn good knockoff sneakers for that to have some value. Otherwise, you're not really setting yourself apart for success in the way that you might want to. So that's question number one. What's your special sauce, or what's your superpower? And then what you want to think about is, within that, are there experts to model? Especially when you're beginning. You want to think, hey, if I'm trying to be the next luxury brand for cars or perfumes, where do I want to sit in that value chain? Do I want to be the discount one at the bottom? Do I want to be the Kia, or do I want to be up at the very top, whether that's beyond Mercedes into the super luxe? You have to decide where you are and what you're going to model. And then the behaviors within that allow you to at least play in the right game, talk to the right folks. And then once you figure out, that expert to model, and this isn't copying. This is about looking at who you aspire to be and what do they do exceptionally well that allows them to have that success. And then I'll say brainstorming ways in which you can model behavior without copying, verbatim what it is that they do. You don't all of a sudden want to show up dressing like Anna Wintour if you're in the fashion business, because that is just silly. You want to be your own you. Yeah, she'll hate you and she'll ban you, and you won't go to the shows. But you get the point, which is, hey, we can study what she's done, but we don't have to copy her. Does that make sense? That
makes complete sense. And I'm drilling in here on something I wasn't planning to drilling in.
That's fine.
Really peeking, my thoughts here. So let's say you're an agent, looking to join a company, or you're already in a company. Should you be looking at your personal brand to make sure it fits within the brand of the company, or does it not really matter? Your own brand is your own brand. Does there have to be some kind of alliance there?
There needs to be alignment, definitely. And I think it's beyond brand. It is some sort of parallel path with integrity. Like, is this a place that, one, you can feel good about being the banner for? Like, because you have to sleep at night, right? The best brands, they don't stop, because brand building doesn't happen overnight. This is a process of, I'll say, deciding what your line is in the sand, and then doing the activities on a day-to-day basis, on a month-to-month basis, year in and year out, to build the foundation of that credibility. So when people see you, see a picture of you, see your logo, see your card, sort of see some representation of you, they all automatically think of quality. They automatically think of trust. They automatically have a warm feeling for you that allows them to desire to do business with you, or at least refer you. Because this is all brand building is about trust building, right? Because you can make anything shiny, but it doesn't mean that I want to buy it.
Yeah, it's actually, I hadn't thought of this. It's really interesting. I never really thought of it before as an agent. A lot of people say, agents should create their own brand, but I think it's light of hyperbola. Like this, people don't talk about the substance behind what that actually means. And that actually means that sometimes you are either not with the right company because it's not aligned, or hopefully you are. And then it's like, wow, fantastic. You complement one another. You support one another.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah, that is.
I want to add one more thing there, which is choosing a place to work has to feed you from an educational perspective as much as it does from your grounded center and financially. Because if you're not learning and growing, you're not really going to add value to the company that you're joining, and you're not going to add value to yourself. You should end whatever your tenure is in that sort of work relationship being better, and you should leave the company in a better place. Because with that lens, that means that you're invaluable, right? And the goal is, as a personal brand, is you're trying to up your value. You're trying to accelerate your professional trajectory to be invaluable so you can command a higher price point to every action that you do.
Guys, for anybody who is watching this now, going to watch it later, going to listen to this later, I honestly, wholeheartedly believe that you should rewind and replay, because Seth, that was some deep stuff that I actually haven't heard people talk about at other places. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So now let me jump to another question here.
Yeah.
How does somebody discover what their personal brand is?
Well, this is very
a tough one. It's
tough. I mean, I think you can orchestrate a brand, meaning that you can decide that you have some skill set. Like maybe you're an exceptional connector, right? And that allows you to be really good at the sales process, but you're really horrible at I'll call it the execution, the process in the background that, sort of crosses the T's and dots the I's. That kind of stuff will happen naturally, and you can sort of map out, hey, what I really want to do right now, I'm selling $2 million apartments or $5 million apartments, and I want to level up to the next area. You can map out what that roadmap is. There are quite a few strategies and tactics that you can do to sort of accelerate your personal and professional success. And so I think about it as an alphabet, and I've sort of mapped this out, which is how the book came about, which is it starts with A, which is authenticity. Like you actually have to care. Like really good brands, they actually give a damn about what they're doing. Because if that's not the case, that's sort of transparent. Like we all experience that moment where we meet someone and they are false. They are pretending, they're too shiny, they're too the used car salesman, no matter what the industry. And so if you haven't sort of figured out what your authentic you is, that's some of the work that you have to do. And to me, that dovetails with expertise. Like you better be good at what you're doing, because if you're going up against professionals, like, one of my favorite people in the space, in the real estate space, is Dolly Lenz. I love Dolly. She is so good at her craft. If you ask her about the market, she's not going to give you some hyperbole about the market. She actually studies the market. And so you're talking to an expert. And so this is what I mean about the authentic base. And then we can go from there to figure out, what are the channels in which your audience is communicating? Who is your micro niche? And so to me, a micro niche is, we could say we want to sell to everybody in the $10 million condo range, but there's probably a subset of those people that you resonate with and that you love and they love you. That's your micro niche. You want to dive into that very small pocket of folks that you can then stand out and be an expert brand in and be at the top of your field, as opposed to saying, hey, I want to be, one of the best brokers in New York. That's just a tough challenge right out of the gate.
Right. So you call it a micro niche. Is there a niche and a micro niche, or that's just the terminology you use to zero in?
Yeah, there is always a niche. So we could say, hey, I'm only going to focus on, I'm going to do condos and not co-ops, right? So that could be a niche. You could be an expert in this niche of co-ops or condos. Let's pick one of those. But then within that, you could be really good at foreign investors, right? We've got a lot of Asian investors right now. They're not the same as maybe their grandparents were, that were looking for shiny objects to hold. They are looking for some sort of long-term ROI because their economy is not as stable as it was not that long ago. And so now we're starting to niche down. Now you have some expertise in a certain type of, we'll call it physical edifice. And then you have a market that you're focusing on, and then you can hone your communication around that. So when someone thinks of that person, you are the best person to talk to about that topic and that micro niche.
So I wrote down a question, and this is just going personal, right? Because I figure I don't know exactly what everybody that's here, that's listening in, or I don't know what their questions are going to be, but I would guess they probably have the same questions that I do. So these are some, I'm going through an internal, call it self-audit, right? I want to, and I guess I'm going through this my whole life, like we all are. We all want to understand ourselves better. But now there's a benefit of understanding yourself, which is if you understand yourself better, you can communicate with others better. And if you know what you're good at, you can speak to those things, right?
Yeah,
so
correct.
The question I wrote down here is, how do you discover what's unique about yourself? And I want to be, I know it's a very general question, like you can say I'm good at working with rich buyers. Okay. But let's say you want to go deeper, right? You want to go a little bit more deeper than that. Do you ask people questions like, you give me somewhat of a help trying to figure out, because chances are some people know me better than I know myself because they see me and I want to know what they see.
Yeah. So there's a process that all brands go through. So let's talk about corporate brands. There's a discovery process that if you hired an agency to come in, what they would want to know about is they would interview you to find out, okay, so what brands are you most like? Who in your industry do you compare yourself to? If you were a story, an animal, like all of these sort of archetype type descriptions. Where do you fit? And then you'd want to talk about what's your story? Like, what's your creation story as a brand? So if we look at Tiffany's, it's a fantastic story of the creation of Tiffany's, which was really built around quality and being this sort of neighborhood store that you could always count on getting the best that existed in the marketplace in New York. That's its home. So there's a story that happens in there. And then what you do is you really want to interview others. You want to interview people that know you. And the questions are somewhat open-ended, which is, hey, what are the top 3 qualities that you think about Michael in his professional being that you respect the most? What are the qualities that you wish he could improve on the most? And this is about understanding what those that know enough about you can say on your behalf. And then there's generally a series of additional questions where you're trying to find out what you're like and what you're not like. Because understanding what you're not like is just as important, because it means that you don't have to fall down the rabbit hole of pretending to be something and attracting the wrong customers. Because that's a huge problem for people, especially in this industry where everyone is a lead. We can chase our tails, right? Everyone is a potential deal. We don't know. But when you're really clear about who you are, then it's much easier to project how you add value to other people, and you're not pretending. Because the worst part is to pretend. You're like, someone asks you what you do, and you're like, well, I sell real estate. Well, okay, well, how do you help people? Like, what are you really good at in this process? Are you good at helping them find the property? Well, maybe if you know the off-market stuff. Are you good at helping them determine what the economic value of this investment is? Well, that could be really interesting. Are you good at understanding what neighborhoods are like and what developments are going on? Well, that's really interesting. So it's really starting to dissect, when you have these experiences with your customers, where do you add value?
That was really good. And I know that I can listen to this later, but as you're talking, I'm taking notes.
That's awesome.
You know it's good.
That's awesome.
So you've given some really, really good stuff about how somebody can do this audit and going about and doing this audit.
Yeah.
Just to put this out there, at the end of our chat, I'm going to leave the opportunity for people to ask some questions as well, which would be great. So now, something that's interesting about our business is that there's extreme competition. Right? There's like 500 different agents that are trying to do different things. Yep. And now let's say you're an agent and you figure out what your brand is, whether it's you're good at, let me ask you, let's say my brand is, I'm just picking something out there, I'm good at negotiating. I'm a good negotiator. I know the rules of the game. I read everything there is to read about negotiating. And I find it fun and engaging. It's like chess to me. So is that enough, or do I need to dig a lot further?
You need to dig further. And the reason I say that is because of the reason that you stated, which is every industry is highly competitive, right? There's no industry that exists that doesn't have competition. I want to say that again. There is no industry that exists that doesn't have competition. But what helps you differentiate is not only figuring out what you're good at, but then figuring out what are the channels that people that care about that value that you bring to the table, where do they spend their time and what's important to them? And so here's just a scenario that might be interesting. So let's say you're really good at negotiating and you've decided that you want to establish yourself in the real estate market in New York. Now, I used to live in Tribeca. I lived on White Street. Imagine if everyone in Tribeca and every store, that's all you focused on. You focused on the relationships in a 6-block radius where everyone knew your name. Everyone knew that's what you did. You helped people that didn't actually employ you in dealing with their contract negotiations. You created advice, content, maybe a blog or a live video series about that geographic area and the projects that were going on and things that you might consider in dealing with negotiation there. Imagine if We're going down to micro niche. You've figured out your expertise. You've figured out your geographic focus, and then you figured out the folks that are doing it. And then you're figuring out what's the recurring brand building activity that you can do to communicate with those people at scale and on a regular basis, so you have some continuity. Because the key is you have to build the brand and you have to create levers that allow you to scale, because you can't be Facebook Live every day 24/7, right? You've got other things to do. The tools that we have today allow us as individuals to create these amazing brands that impact the lives of lots of people. It doesn't have to be millions of people. It could be, imagine if 1,000 lawyers that weren't title lawyers or contract lawyers in your geographic area knew who you were and that you were exceptionally good at it. Wouldn't that be lead funnel enough?
That would be, it's interesting how you're saying, it's some things are almost like obvious, but then when you say it, it's like, whoa, yeah, if you focused on 6 blocks and you focused on all the people in those 6 blocks, the relationships, I mean, you could be known as the shrewd negotiator who dominates
that area.
Yeah.
And the key is our natural inclination when we think about brand and growing businesses is to go big. I want to be big. But how you go big is being exceptional at small, because you need super fans. You need people that when they move out of your geographic area only want to do business with you because they can trust you.
First of all, I got a question for you. Somebody asked over here.
Yeah.
You made reference to your book.
Yes.
But I don't think we had a full introduction to the book. So for those of you who don't know, this phenomenal book that's coming out, just aesthetically, you rocked it. I'm sure the content's going to be mind-blowing. But can you give us a quick intro what people can expect in your book?
Yeah, so the book is titled The Road to Recognition. And so if you go to theroadtorecognition.com, you'll see the book and some testimonials. What I've done throughout my life and what I've watched others do is build exceptional personal brands, even when they build exceptional companies. So if we look at Tesla, we don't think of Tesla, we think of Elon Musk. When we think of Amazon, we don't think of Amazon, we think of Jeff Bezos. These are people that have leveraged their personality, their drive, their tenacity, whatever their character is, to help grow their business. And so the book is an A to Z guide to personal branding. It includes contributions from lots of fantastic marketers that have leveraged personal brand to build their business or their success in life. And it starts with A for authenticity, and it goes into B for blogging, C for content, D for design, I for influencers, E for email, F for followers. And it's a, choose your own adventure, because you can't do all of these things at once, but you need to know that they all exist because they dovetail into each other as you start growing your brand. So as an example, design is a really important piece in our lives, especially if you live in New York. If you are not dressing the part that really connects with your audience. So here's an example. If you are in Tribeca and selling mostly to Wall Streeters or let's switch that, selling mostly to creative types, if you show up dressed like Madison Avenue, you might have a hard time feeling like you're one of them. Like you are part of the tribe. And this is about connecting with tribes. We process images 60,000 times faster than the written word. So design is so important. So when I thought about the book, part of the book was me walking the talk of creating this easily digestible tome on how to think about personal branding. But part was an exercise in, can I take that and create a brand around it? Can I exercise that muscle in this activity for the launch of a book? So that's what the book is about. I think you'll find it super helpful. I hope that it adds value to folks. And if you go to the site and you sign up on the list, you'll get, infographics, a brand, I'll call it a brand canvas. So a whole bunch of questions you might want to answer to help you figure out your brand, and lots of other goodies too.
That's fantastic. And I did you actually create a font for this book? Or?
Yes. Yeah. We created a font for the book. I mean, we went all out.
That's hardcore. I mean, that is difficult. Creating a font. Wow.
Well, you know, what's crazy is it's not. You just have to decide. So if we think about taste, what is taste? Taste is just a decision. It's a discerning palate to say that, hey, I prefer Belgian fries over Burger King. That's taste. That's all it is. It's me saying like, hey, I can really tell the difference between rancid oil in a deep fryer and someone who's double fried their fries and it's not oily and it's crispy and sweet and salty. Like I can tell the difference, but that's just a decision. And so when you think about brand, it's the same way. Do you want to be a brand that people remember? And are you willing to take the steps to do that? Or are you okay being the status quo where people are like, oh yeah, I met this guy. I don't really remember him.
So it is about making decisions.
It is all about making decisions.
That is hard, but at the same time, it's simple that it is simple, that it's just making decisions. But there's probably a lot of decisions that went into making that font. But I imagine that as you start developing your brand more and more, at least from my experience, when I'm developing our brand more and more, it gets easier because you know what decision you need to make.
Yes,
you don't have
that is correct.
Figure that every time.
That is correct. It does get easier because the world tells you it's an immediate feedback mechanism, right? It tells you whether you're resonating and you feel whether you're resonating. Does this feel good to you? Does it drive business? Is it connecting with people that you actually want to connect with?
I was speaking.
I'll write the URL. Someone asked for it.
Oh, thank you. I was speaking with my uncle a couple of months ago, and I was talking about stuff that I was doing in social media. And I was talking about some of the education that I'm doing and the sharing and providing deposits of value to people. And then I was talking about some of the other things that I was doing. And I asked him a question. I said, what should I be spending my time on doing? And he's like, well, I mean, how many likes did you get on one? How many comments did you get on the other? And I was saying, well, when I'm sharing value and I'm sharing education and I'm putting myself to the side and just focusing on other people, I'm getting a lot more people interested. And he goes, well, then the jury decided, didn't they? That's what they want from you. And it was I always love going out to the public, and instead of just saying, this is what I want to do, I like hearing what they want to receive and what they want to get.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you're saying.
So the one thing to be careful of there is that, and I learned this a long time ago, Danny Meier is actually the one that taught this to me. He said, customers will line up to put you out of business. And I want to repeat that, is that the customer doesn't care if you're undercharging. The customer doesn't care whether you are focusing on the wrong ROI activity. The customer definitely cares about value. And so it's a double-edged sword. And so here's the example is, right now in this show, we are focused on real estate professionals. So I don't know enough about the business. Now, this may be a great way to build a referral network. It may be a great way to start to establish your broader brand. It may be a great way to think about recruiting, but it's probably not a great way to talk directly to folks that are buying and selling real estate in your local geographic area. So I only frame that because when you're thinking about the activities that people like and they go, hey, this is a thumbs up, you have to make sure that it aligns with what your goals are, because it's easy to spin wheels and have people go, you're awesome. And we've all done it, right? We do some activity and people think it's really great, but it doesn't turn out to build our business. And so it's really important to think about that as well.
Can you explain what you meant when you said it's not a good way to reach customers? Do you mean our talk or Facebook Live in general? What did you mean?
No, I just meant the focus of this talk.
This talk.
Yeah, because, I don't know that exactly, but if I were to do some research into who might be your ideal customer.
Yeah, it's a different audience.
It's a different audience. And so it's just really important for those listening to understand that you just don't go spin up a random show
right,
without a purpose, unless you happen to love the thing and you're going to do it anyway, whether you had the job or not.
yeah,
Like, that's cool.
yeah.
But if
Like,
you're doing this as an activity to build your business and your brand, you need to be thoughtful about the audience that you're doing the activity for.
yeah, no, I got you loud and clear. And just to be frank, so the purpose of these shows, these real estate social rockstar shows, are to provide value in educational format to help agents better build their business. If they can get better at building their brand, they're going to build a better business. And the ROI for me as a broker owner is if I'm sharing value and giving, valuable information to real estate agents, and they like being in an environment which is all about giving and sharing and educating. And there is an opportunity where they might be looking to switch firms, and they're in.
I'm all for it. Yep.
Yeah,
that makes complete sense. And so that's the lens for those listening, that you want to think about all your activities. When you're a broker, you have two hats, right? One hat is you've got to be lead gen for buyers and sellers, right? So you can either be the rainmaker for your agents or the rainmaker for you if you're still a producing agent in your space. The other side is you've got to recruit, right? And that's really important. And it's very difficult to recruit if you're not adding value. And these activities allow you to share not only who you are, so the timbre of your voice, like, Michael, you're a really nice guy. So we've gotten over that barrier, right? You actually care and you know a lot. So we've gotten over that barrier. And then I can start to think about, oh, what's it like to work there? Would I like to work for this person? Would I like to work with this person? Am I going to learn something? All really great questions that you knock out of the way by being open, demonstrative, sharing what you know, and including other folks in the conversation.
Yeah. What really resonated with me in your last, the reason at the beginning when you were talking about agents fitting into the brand and aligning it, is I interview a lot of agents, and there are definitely some that are producing agents that make good money, that tell me they're interested in working here. And I almost like try to convince them not to work here because I know that their brand doesn't align with mine. And while they'll make me money in the short term, like, I can't help their brand. They can't help my brand. So it's nice to, improve my conversation with people. And it's nice. I wish every agent, before they come in for an interview with me, watches this show so they can look at the Meier brand and say, do we fit in this? And if not, that's great. There's no problem. We both saved ourselves some heartache, you will find a place that's good for you. There's a lot of good firms out there. But that's, I like that. It's just good for agents to hear that. So thank you.
If someone if there are beginners that don't have a home yet, there is no reason why you can't do an amazing amount of research on the individuals that are running the organizations that you might want to work at. You can look at the stats on production. You can read the real deal. Like, there's all kinds of places that you can find information, and then you can cross-reference that on social. You can read people's content. You can go to their Instagram. Like, there is no reason that you can't do a whole bunch of research to really understand, is someone walking the talk? And do you want to be a part of that conversation?
I think that one of the really great things is to flip it. I've had people that come in and they're a good fit. They're a good fit because it just naturally feels like they're into the same things you are. And I whenever I interview someone, like, I always ask them, a lot of people, they come in and say, well, what does your firm give? And I'm like, honestly, nothing. The question is, what contribution are you going to be making when you come into the firm? And we all believe in contribution. So if you come in contributing, by definition, you're going to get stuff because everyone's only brought in that wants to contribute. And when they see we're the type of person that likes to contribute, well, then you're on brand because I want you to do that with your clients. You're supposed to contribute, and then they'll call you when the opportunity comes. Yeah. So all that's really good. We don't have much time left. I wanted to just ask you a quick question about email marketing.
Please.
I do a lot of video and all this kind of stuff. So when somebody's looking to do email marketing, these days it's becoming very, very dry.
Yes.
But I know that it's like a whole chapter, something in your book you mentioned, or
that is correct. So email marketing is this amazing, amazing tool. It's one of the last permission-based activities which customers grant us, or potential people grant us the right to be in their phone, in their inbox, the place that they check more often than almost anything else besides Facebook. And in Facebook, like, you can be friends with folks on Facebook, but the likelihood that what you share and they're going to see is really diminished. Now, where people fail with email is, one, they don't treat email as a gift, as an opportunity to converse with folks. And so there's lots of one and done or one night stands with email, where you get someone on your list and then you email them once a month or once every 2 months, or you just email them the wrong stuff. You send out a random newsletter. Like, who actually wants to read a newsletter? We want to read information that's going to add value to our lives. So let's circle back to what I said earlier, which is, if you micro niche down and you decided that what you're really good at is contract negotiation, and you're going to be the expert in a 6-block area, let's pick Gramercy or whatever the area is, and you targeted the influencers in that area, and they happen to be attorneys that aren't contract attorneys for real estate, you want to build a relationship with them. You don't need every Tom, Dick, and Jane on your mailing list. You really just want those folks. So you focus your effort on making sure that what you're writing is actually solving a problem and informing them and entertaining that very specific audience in a way that they're going to open emails. And then you're developing a relationship over time. Consistency is key. If you're not consistent, it's just spam.
Do you believe that there is still space for direct mail marketing?
Oh, without a doubt. Every tool, if done correctly, we're okay with. Like, I'm okay with a postcard that feels like it's beautiful, it adds value, it's informative, and maybe it's humorous. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. I was sitting on a panel recently with another young broker owner, and we were talking about social media and digital technology and everything. And they asked a question. It was a few older people on the panel too. They asked a question, who here uses direct mail? And it was funny that just the two younger, the millennial mindset people on this panel were like, yeah, we use it. And they're like, whoa, the younger people are using direct mail? And I'm like, yeah, it works. We don't think that works.
Totally works. I mean, you can do amazing things with direct mail. You can target based upon your list. You can target based upon Facebook lead activity. You can put pixels in your website for Facebook, for Instagram, on Twitter. You can make it so you are geographically creating a postcard that has the information of the person or the neighborhood or stats about that neighborhood. Like, there's amazing stuff you could do. You could also do handwritten. You could do bond.co and do handwritten cards for each person in your small farming network. Like, imagine that. Every person you met automatically went into your database and you triggered a bond.co card to be sent out. Like, it's super simple, right? This is just about creating a current of connection with an individual. So the next time that you communicate with them, they actually feel some semblance of trust. And then your job is to deliver that trust.
Yeah. Well, I want to end this off with a couple of quick points. First of all, Seth, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for coming on this show and dropping some serious nuggets of wisdom here. And I'm sure there's going to be a million follow-up questions to this and everything. Seth, if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so I'm easily found on Twitter, Seth Price. I'm easily found on Facebook, Seth K. Price. K is for Kendall. I'm easily found via email, seth@playster.com. The book is theroadtorecognition.com. I think I can be found.
Perfect. Yes, you can. I'm on your site right now, and one of your quotes is, "A personal brand is built one action at a time." I love that. Thank you for that quote. That's from you.
Yes.
And I'm always telling people or asking people to take action. So if you're watching this show, you're listening to this show, don't only listen to it and say Seth sounds like a genius, because he is, but think about what you can actually do, what steps you can take, what actions you can take. Everything from, are you in the right company? And if you are you aligning yourself with the brand correctly with that company so the company helps you grow and you help the company grow? I loved what you said about a 10-year, if you ever leave the company that you're with, you should walk away with the company being in a better position and you also being in a better position. You should both win at the end of the day. There's too many stuff for me to recap here. So Seth, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Michael.
We're out there. You pretty much shared a ton.
Yeah, the last thing I would say is we talked a lot about some of the nitty gritty of creating brand. Part of scaling a brand is leveraging all the tools that we have at our disposal to talk one to many. Because if you just stay one-to-one, it's really hard to sort of amplify your brand. And so what I mean by that is whether you decide to blog to that niche audience, whether you decide to create content like what we're doing here, which is a show that has regularity that people can count on and they know what the subject matter is, whether that's creating visuals or using some way to create content on a regular basis that is shared with your target audience. Those are the activities you want to think about once you hone in on who you are and who you're talking to. It's not difficult. If I can do it, you can do it.
Seth, thank you very, very much. Guys, you are watching the Real Estate Social Rockstar Show. My name is Michael Meier. If you would like to reach me, you can reach me on Facebook at Michael Meier NYC. That's Meier, Michael Meier NYC. Or you can find me on Snapchat as well at Michael Meier NYC. Thank you all for tuning in. And Seth, big round of applause from everybody out there that's watching this right now.
Great.
And thank you for joining us on this Rockstar Show.
Awesome, Michael. Thank you.
Bye, Seth. Bye, everybody. Thank you.